Okay, finally, I have a chance to get on live here in this group to talk about a sequence review. This is the first time that I'm doing a sequence review, and it's basically a class review of a sequence written out like this. And I want to do this more often because to me it's really fun and I love to give you tips and tricks in the inside. So what I'm doing today is going back to my sequence that I built in my yoga teacher training, because that was one of the assignments that I had, and also I give to my yoga teacher trainees, is to build or write out a 60-minute sequence. It can be as simple as a page like this, or it can be put into this 3-page template that I have. I do have a fillable template, but you've got to get into a focused flow, and you can get all the templates and the workbooks and all of that right there. So recently I just released Focus Flow, and it's a workshop. It's not like a huge extensive course, but it's a workshop that teaches you the foundations and basics of sequencing a yoga class with ease. And right now it's brand new, newly launched. So those of you who are getting in now will have access to all the updates, and the price will go up at the end of May. So I'm discounting everything right now for May because I know this is a struggle point. I know this is something that people need help with. So let's get to it. If you haven't seen a live video with me before, I'm Ashley, a creator of this group, yoga studio owner, teacher trainer, and I've been teaching yoga since 2012 and practicing since a few years before that. And I started by just jumping in and getting in, just taking classes, I guess. And I wanted to be more flexible and stronger, and I found it really did so much more than that. So I'm going to talk about this sequence that I created in my teacher training. And I wish I could share a picture with you, or I should have shared a picture with you. I think I will afterwards. I'm going to run you through this, and we'll talk about it step by step. By the way, since I created this, or this is from teacher training, this template of the 3-part section, so it's got 3 pages, and I do have a PDF available to those of you who either are in my course or have these materials. It's fill-outable online, so you can simply just write inside of it. And if you are part of my course, or I could say workshop, and you have this, feel free to fill it out, email it to me, or email me a picture of your sequence, and I would love to do this for you too, to get on here and just talk about it, look at it, and see what transitions might be good, or if we should switch some poses around, or if the style or if the poses that you're teaching are good with the focus of your class. So this sequence that I have is from my 200 hour. I did my 200 hour at a place called American Power Yoga, and it was a power yoga training, and it was very specific to how you had to teach, but we didn't get one set sequence. We had to create our own. And our final presentation was a 20-minute. It could have been a shortened version of our 60-minute or hour-long, or it could just be something different. So we had to create it ourselves. We didn't have to present anything that they gave us, the 2 lead teachers. Instead, we did it. We created it. We got to be creative and take our own personality and put it in there. And I want you to do that too. So this one that I created was very much how I saw yoga classes being presented to me at the time, because I did a lot of my yoga classes, and what I loved was with that lead trainer that I took yoga teacher training from. So I loved his style, and I loved the style of their studio. I, in fact, drove 1,300 miles to Dallas from Fargo, North Dakota to take that training. It was a 2-week intensive, a week off in the middle, and I loved it. Life-changing. Make sure that you do your due diligence and make sure that you research the training. Make sure it's someone that you resonate with if you're going to take trainings. Anyway, sequencing. So right here you can see I've got, if you're seeing this up close, I've got a warm-up, sequence number 1, sequence number 2, sequence number 3, and a final sequence coming down. And to me, this could be more or less, it could be an hour. This could be 2 hours if I wanted it to be. It doesn't matter. But the way that I teach it would be a 60-minute class. So the warm-up, and I'm going to actually do part of this so you can see what this is like. The warm-up starts with seated. Okay, so in this too, I did not come up with a focus. I didn't come up with an audience. I just came up with a yoga class that I thought I would enjoy. So this wasn't a lesson in creating your audience, your focus, your marketing. It was just to create the sequence of the class. So here it looks like the very first thing we always did in my training, at least, is pick out a peak pose or a pose that you're building towards. And it looks like what I have here is running man. That's what I call it. Or it's running lunge, or running, what is it? A lunge arm balance. You can call it whatever you want. The names don't matter. It's also like Ekapada Kundanyasana. But the one I was leading up to, because at the time I was power yogi, remember? I still kind of am, is this pose right here. So I was like, what needs to happen in order for the hips to be open enough, the shoulders to feel good, to be warmed up to get into that pose or towards that pose. So what I have here, let's check it out. We start seated. So seated is a great, just regular way to get started. Awesome. So I mentioned the breath setup. So here I would say breathing in through the nose, making sure that you use your breath as a guide, and use your breath to stay in the present moment and noticing the breath. So we drop into our bodies, right? So we take some time to be here. It's about 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes if you wanted to, at least a minute, if not a couple more. And then what do I have? Hands left and right side, seated fold. Okay, so I must have meant side bends. Okay, so we're stretching the side of the body. So this is a simple warm-up, breath-based movements. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, side bend. Cool. And then seated fold. So I'd fold forward. I might do this twice. So seated forward fold is awesome, but I want to do it twice. I don't have that written in here, and that's my suggestion for old Ashley, is to do it twice because we want to switch the hips. Unless we're not staying very long. If you're staying long in the forward fold, you want to switch and do both sides. And then I come forward to cat and cow. This is still part of the warm-up, okay? Warm-up goes through our first sun salutation or so. So we've got cat, cow, cow. Okay, awesome. Down dog. And I might stay there a while, but we're going through this fast. Yogi squat. All right, so we're getting into the hips right away. This is awesome. This is good. So we get into the hips, but not everyone can do that. So we might give options to do something different. So this is nice for getting ready to prepare for that arm balance. So we got to yogi squat, and then we roll ourselves up. Always from the first down dog, I'm going to roll up. And then in here, I do these Tai Chi movements that I learned. It was specific for my training. Brush hands. So this is one where we do brush forward, brush down with the breath. I'm doing this fast again. This is what I teach also, is to practice your sequence fast through just to see how it flows. All right, so we did brush hands, and then we would do a humble wide forward fold. Okay, getting into the shoulders, stretching them out. Release, twist, twist, and roll up again, and then we're at the sun salutation A. So that was the full like mini little warm-up, preparation warm-up. Then we get into sun salutation A with setup. So because I know what I'm talking about here, this is mine, so it's easy to see and how my brain worked. Sun salutation A, when I do them, they are slower. The first one is slower, so it's a setup. So it's preparing everyone for success, not just the people who know what sun salutations are. So if you're someone who's struggling with teaching all levels yoga classes, think about for the first time that you do something, if you have all levels or beginners in your practice, make sure that you are going back to the basics and reminding people how to do it. So a slow sun salutation, you're going to take your time a little bit more. So sun salutation A with setup, or with talking about the poses, mountain pose, set them up. Forward fold, talk about the back, talk about any common misalignments in those poses. And then options if you're taking them to your belly, cobra, up dog. So that would be their slow sun salutation. And I would do that once through, and I might do a couple more sun salutation A's. Looks like I just did one, which is fine. I could definitely add a couple more. And then sequence number 1, this could be what my sequence is. It's warrior 1, warrior 2, reverse warrior, single leg down dog, and then going into like kind of, it's got this little wavy type of flow. So it can be considered a sun salutation B because it is a sun salutation with lunges, but I'm just calling it sequence 1 because it adds a little bit more. So what I have here, I would do sun salutation, right? We'd probably be in downward facing dog, and then we're doing sequence number 1 through on both sides. We get into standing poses, so a little bit bigger. Warrior 1, and any time I could have added some like extra core strengthening stuff. Some people added at the beginning, some people added in the middle, some at the end. So Warrior 1 to Warrior 2, some people don't like that transition, but if you go fast enough and then you set people up in their feet stance, you should be fine. So unless you're doing it really fast and your feet are not moving at all, just be mindful of that transition from Warrior 1 to Warrior 2. I might instead have crescent lunge to Warrior 2 where I can spin the back heel down, open the hips, reverse Warrior, and then back to how do I want to transition? From Warrior 2, I can cartwheel down, which is actually a really tough transition, or we go through that same process we came into it. So it went reverse Warrior, Warrior 2, back to crescent lunge, hands down, step back, single leg down dog. Yeah? And then I did a single leg down dog, open up, feel good, shake it out, and then crescent lunge low. Warrior 3. Is it from here? I might want to get up high first so I can work with gravity. So this transition, it says low lunge to Warrior 3. So to me, if I were to just do that, I would be shifting forward and then lifting up against gravity. That's tough and maybe hard on some joints. So I like to go with gravity. I would go low lunge to high lunge with gravity, taking off to Warrior 3. Standing splits, now again, same with gravity, taking it down. Step the feet together, we got a chair twist. Bend the knees, reach up, twist. Don't forget what side you were on. Okay, and then I'd repeat that on the other side. Okay, I kind of like that sequence. That was kind of fun. And I could add vinyasas in there. I could add more flow, or I could stick with what it was written. Sequence number 2. Triangle, half moon option, standing split to forward fold. Vinyasa to my final, my peak pose. This is a tough class. If I did this is definitely a power class. So we did one standing series that was kind of simple, very accessible to a lot of people. The stepping back to single leg down dog may be a little challenging, but still doable. So there's still a lot of variety there. This second sequence is a little bit more challenging. So it starts with when we were in chair twist, we come out of it, and then we could go through another vinyasa to get to down dog in transition, or however we want to get into that lunge once again. We'll do triangle pose this time. So I would do low lunge, back heel down, maybe Warrior 1, straighten the front leg, open the arms. Yep, Warrior, sort of just a star position, hips neutral, triangle pose. Option for half moon. Ooh, there we go. And then some people, again, don't like this transition. I don't mind it because it's with gravity. From half moon to standing splits to forward fold, vinyasa. Same leg goes up, and we do tiger knees, knee to nose, knee to elbow, knee to nose, or however I want to do that. And then right away, the transition into our Ekapada Kundanyasana, or flying lizard. Knee to elbow, shift forward. We can hold it here, pause. This is a great place to stay. Or moving forward, lifting off. And we would play around in that pose for a little bit. After that one, it says the counter pose is a crescent twist. So we had the hips open. We lift the leg back up, steps forward, reach up, and twist. Okay, I think it works just fine. This is definitely one that's going to be a strong class, a power class. It could be maybe a little flowy, but it's got quite a few poses, and they're stronger poses. And then I do that on the other side. Sequence 3, Warrior 1, Warrior 2, side angle and pigeon. So I would flow again or start from the top. Warrior 1, Warrior 2, side angle, pigeon pose. How do we do that? This is a tough transition if I'm going from warrior one, warrior two, side angle, pigeon, because I've got to get down back to hip squared, and it might be knee down, heel toe the leg across, bring it down, or if I bring the leg back first and then bring it forward. My suggestion for sequence 3 is to take pigeon pose and put it in its own block. So this is a block series. It's what I'm teaching in Focus Flow. It's one of the styles. There's block, ladder, wave flow, robot flow, set sequence flow, and 2 different kinds of ladder flows. So this is a block sequence. I would put pigeon pose probably on its own. I've started doing that because I find that if I do a long sequence and then pigeon pose is at the end, and then it takes a long time from the other side to get there, pigeon pose on the other side, it just jars my hips and it just feels uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. Not in that growth way, but in a way that's like, I don't like this. I don't like this having to wait to do pigeon pose. So I like to do right side, then left side, almost right away, back to back. Now, if I do a pigeon pose on one side and then afterwards do a little shakeout, maybe a wild thing, that's fine. Or step through one time as a little release, that's fine. But we'll go to the other side almost back to back. Like almost. It might be a couple poses, but I'm not going to do a really long sequence like warrior one, warrior two, side angle, triangle, half moon, all the other poses, and then pigeon pose. Have to go through the whole thing again. So my sequence 3, it looks like I have warrior one, warrior two, and side angle. After, might be good to do option for bind. After we did that running man, right? And then we do warrior one, warrior two, side angle. Maybe because we were like this before, we want to bind up and find a little bit more stretch in the opposite direction. Pigeon pose afterwards, since there wasn't a lot of back bending here. After that pigeon pose, so I put that in its own block, I would then give the option to do this here, to do our wild thing, right? Okay, so this is me changing it up. If I had this as a sequence in my class, definitely would not be the exact same that's here because I'm trying it out. My final sequence is transitioning to seated. Transitioning to seated, okay. I've got cobbler pose or bound angle, reverse plank, boat pose. I would possibly put boat pose before reverse plank, actually. Boat pose and then reverse plank to stretch it out. Either way, they go well hand in hand. So I only have 3 seated poses: bound angle, reverse plank, boat pose. This class is definitely mostly standing, mostly power. So not a lot of chill, relaxing, feel good type stuff. I mean, it will feel good, but you're going to get tired. Then from there, I roll down, hug my knees. There's just a few poses. Knee hug, bridge, shoulder stand or legs up, a twist, knees side to side, one side, the other side, and then Shavasana. And that's sort of my like go-to ending, is to do a bridge or a back bend, an inversion, and a twist. And my twist can be either before or after the inversion. I typically do the twist towards the end. I like to at least do bridge pose right away when I get down. Just a preference, but it might be a little different for you depending on your training and style. But you don't need tons of poses if you're doing power yoga at the end, just enough to feel relaxed and come down. So it's a cool down. The final sequence is also a great place to do deeper stretches. Deeper stretches, like if you wanted to get deeper in a hip stretch or in your hamstrings, you might lie down and get more stretchy here with a strap, maybe bringing it out or doing something that's going to allow your heated muscles to feel lengthened. So the final sequence is either a place to cool down, relax, or get more stretchy. What I have is very just kind of blah. There's nothing creative about it. It's just like, here's a few poses to end. It's more of a cool down than a smart sequence. So this is what it looks like. This is how I wrote it. This is how I wrote it. And then I have Shavasana. So in this homework assignment, I did not have to write my scripts for anything. I didn't have to tell people how I'm getting out of Shavasana. I didn't have to write any quotes. I just had to write the poses that we were going to do. And then the rest can be filled in. Like the magic of your class can be filled in afterwards. So here, this is a very powerful sequence, or could be a very powerful class. So I might have my theme be based on how the class is structured. So I might go in reverse here. Instead of picking a theme and designing a class around it, I've got my class, I'm going to design my theme around it. So let's see, if I've got this class that's going up to, I called it Running Man, but we can call it Flying Lizard. That's my peak pose. How do I want people to feel after they get done with this class? Well, I want them to feel accomplished, but tired. Like I want them to be challenged. And so a theme around being challenged might be more so about empowerment and riding through the challenges of life. So finding anything, any quotes, any excerpts, or just specific words or affirmations that relate to feeling empowered when you don't have the time to do exactly what you want to do in your life. I don't know, just something that relates and resonates with the feeling that I want to portray here. And that's what I do in the Focus Flow workshop, is we talk about, and I have a whole list of all of the words that you could circle or star how you want your students to feel. So you can start with either the sequence or you can start with the focus. I've got those two parts. In the workshop, I start with talking about the focus, though, of the class. So if you design your focus, it can be around a word, an emotion, your students. It could be around your yourself, your journey, and what you want to bring. If you're doing recorded classes, it's going to be more centered around you as the teacher, because you're not seeing or feeling the energy of the room, which is a big thing for me. A little story is I use this template. This is in my head now, so I don't need to write things down. But I got to my class yesterday to teach my 1 o'clock class, and it was supposed to be yoga sculpt, but I had one participant on, and I don't think she wanted yoga sculpt. So I asked, hey, what do you want to do today? Or not what do you want to do, but how are you feeling today? And what is it that we can work on? And she said she wanted to work on neck, shoulders, low back, and hips. All of the recommendations that someone would have in a class. And I was like, great, I got it. So I had it in my head. Because I have this formula, this template, I can create that class right when she says that. I go, I know what you need. I've got this. And then even just having a little discussion with her and talking about how busy she's feeling and how overwhelmed she's feeling. I knew that, like the starting pose, when you feel overwhelmed or if there's too much going on, a starting pose needs to be down more, with forehead down, either child's pose or a forward fold hanging out, just something that's down to get you more grounded. So I'm able to pick up on those little things, those little emotions and feelings that someone's having, and then create a practice based on what they need. And I did not have a set plan right when I got to class. I was going to teach yoga sculpt with weights, but because it was one student and I needed to listen to her and what she needed, I switched it up by just, pulling out in my brain those things that she wanted and noticing the emotional focus. So she was overwhelmed. She was tired, overwhelmed, a lot of things going on. All right, so how does she want to feel? That might be a great question I could have asked too, is how do you want to feel after class? And that can help shape the practice afterwards. If you ask the simple question, how do you want to feel after your yoga class? Not what do you want to work on in your body, but how do you want to feel? Do you want to be joyful? Do you want to be excited? Do you want to feel alive? Do you want to feel relaxed? All of those are going to play an effect in the messaging that you bring to your class and the class template sequence itself. This class is not a class I would teach if someone came to me and said they needed to relax or work on their shoulders, or like stretch their shoulders. It's just not. It wouldn't work. I could do something similar-ish, but not really. So I would have to design something else. I'd have to pick a different starting pose, simple warm-ups that relate to what your student needs. And I do like to start with do a peak pose, but it doesn't have to be a peak pose. It could be just an anatomical focus based on the emotions and the needs of your students. And remember, when you're teaching yoga, it's not about you. It's not about you, the teacher, that it's no one's honed in and looking at your blemishes or your your flaws. They're wanting to be better for themselves. They're there, they show up because of themselves. They don't show up for you. Well, some people do, but most of the time they show up for themselves. So my hope and goal is that you get out and actually teach yoga classes, to get out and share this amazing practice, because right now a lot of people need it. And I just shared a YouTube video that I probably will share here as well, on the behind the scenes of why I'm creating these workshops and courses. And I really would love to take someone else's sequence. And I may even use my yoga teacher trainees if they give me permission. I'll use their sequence and do a little breakdown and do some videos based on what someone else gives me. So this was my own. I know my own plans. I know what I think in my head, but I'd love to see someone else's. So if you are one of those that I listed who are jumping into the Focus Flow workshop, and you send me your filled out either template or a picture of your written out sequence, just like this, maybe you also write what your focus and your theme is, I would love to do a review for you. So it won't be that day, but it will be at some point. I would love to do a review and at least give you some feedback. So I would love for you to join. Head on over to the link that I have if you want to join us in the Focus Flow workshop. And it will only be available for a little while, and then actually the price will go up at the end of May. So I won't be talking about it more after that. But right now, I know that it's going to be so helpful for a lot of you, and I can't wait to see the yoga class plans and sequences that you're creating. And I can't wait to review some of them for you too. All right. Have a wonderful day. I have no idea. I see people who are on here, but I didn't see any comments. That's okay. So I don't know who was watching, but thank you for watching. And make sure to check out ashesyoga.com if you want any more information about what I have, my sequencing, or my courses. All right? All right.